Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning, and thanks again for tuning into O'Connor and Company. It's 6:06 on a busy and very foggy Tuesday morning. Be careful driving out there. Hans and I were driving in this morning. We got to the studio, and we both were talking about, boy, that was tough. So be super careful, slow down, and get to work on time but safely. We've got a great show at 7:05. Cully Stimson with the Heritage Foundation on the Daniel Penny acquittal. 7:35. Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, on the Luigi Maggioni arrest. He's the alleged killer of the UnitedHealth CEO. He'll cover other legal topics as well. And 8:05, Susan Ferruccio with the Washington Times. She'll give us the latest on Trump's cabinet picks. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for Larry O'Connor alongside Hans von Spakovsky. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me back.
It has been great having you here because I feel like so many legal topics, from the Daniel Penny acquittal, now this arrest of this Luigi Mangione. This is a really weird story. First of all, what we know is the Brian Thompson. He was the CEO, father and husband. He was the CEO of this insurance giant, UnitedHealthCare. He was gunned down. There was a security camera sort of fixated on the area where he was gunned down. You can actually, it's horrifying. He was shot several times by this person wearing a hoodie with a backpack. It looked like a professional hit job.
It did. I think this guy, if to me this is the killer, I think he watched too many movies, read too many books, and tried to engineer it to look that way.
Yeah, I agree. But it was interesting on Twitter. I follow a lot of law enforcement people, and people were pretty agreed. This was agreed upon that. Oh, this was a professional hit. Look at his stance. Look at how he calmly walks away. So. It's looking more and more like this was not the case. The suspect who has been arrested he's now sort of, we found out that he is this anti-capitalist Ivy League grad, that he liked online quotes from the Unabomber. He had a manifesto, which he was arrested with, okay? And let's talk about this arrest. He was arrested in a McDonald's. The McDonald's worker recognized him because there have been several pictures that have gone out, with his sort of gleaming smile.
And kudos to that worker at McDonald's for taking the initiative to call the police about it.
Yes, so the police arrive. He's arrested. He's found with a manifesto and the gun and the silencer. So he didn't get rid of that gun and silencer. He didn't ditch the manifesto. He still had that stuff with him. Originally from Towson, Maryland. So this is a local family. One interesting, he apparently hated the medical community. That was sort of, it looks like, allegedly, the driving factor here. Yet his family was in the medical community.
Yeah, and look, the fact that he was caught with the gun, caught with his manifesto. Look, this guy, he wanted to get caught. He wants to make a splash. He wants to, whatever crazy ideas he has, he wants publicity for it. I mean, that's probably what's going on with all of that. Although, look, we should all keep in mind, it's early.
Yeah.
It's early. The investigation is still going on, and everyone should be cautioned about jumping to too many conclusions too early.
Yeah, he's from a prominent Maryland real estate family. Apparently, they own a golf course and sort of a housing development area surrounding that golf course. But they also own some retirement communities or nursing homes. Is that right?
Yeah, nursing. I think they're nursing homes. One member of the family is in the state legislature of Maryland too. So it's not as if. Supposedly this guy was complaining about health care problems. It's not like he comes from a poor family that didn't have health care coverage.
No, I'm reading here, the grandfather, Nick Mangione, and again, you said that one of his family members serves in the Maryland House of Delegates. That is Nino Mangione, and he actually released a statement yesterday, which I'll read. The Mangione family, though, they're known throughout the Baltimore region. His grandfather, Nick Mangione Sr., purchased Turf Valley Country Club in Ellicott City in the 1970s. It's funny, you came in saying, I just passed that place. I was driving around.
I was on a drive this weekend, and I went right by that golf course.
They then developed the golf course community surrounding that golf course. The family purchased another country club in the 1980s, and they also own a nursing home company called Lorien Health Services, as well as a radio station. Well, how about that? A radio station, WCBM, which airs programs throughout the Baltimore area. The family did issue a statement yesterday. They said, unfortunately, we cannot comment on news reports regarding Luigi Mangione. We only know what we have read in the media. Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and we ask people to pray for all involved. We are devastated by the news, and that was signed the Mangione family. So really, a really odd story. And there were some other things on Twitter saying that, sort of revealing that this kid had had back surgery, that he was in constant pain, that he might have had resentment. This is, of course, all, what I'm seeing out there. I'm not confirming anything, but there was some question about his own health care, his own mental state. Apparently, he had sort of gone silent for several months, and the family hadn't heard from him. So a lot to be revealed from this case.
There is. But look, this was a cold-blooded, brutal killing, and just as shocking as the killing was the fact that we have people out there like Taylor Lorenz and others celebrating this.
Oh, yeah.
As if this was a good thing.
That's right.
And that is just disgusting. It is just terrible that people would react in that way.
It's really maddening also to have people of prominent stature. I mean, Taylor Lorenz is a columnist with the Washington Post and Vox. It was announced yesterday that she has been let go from Vox, and apparently it's partly because she has publicly come out and sort of celebrated this death and also called Biden a war criminal. I mean, she's had some pretty provocative moments, but I think that Taylor Lorenz, to some degree, between this and Daniel Penny, and the fact that some people really thought what Daniel Penny did was wrong, I feel like she is sort of the voice of her generation. What we're seeing on the campus of Columbia University, how we're seeing young people react to some of these crimes, like this CEO deserving it. I don't think what she's saying is so different from what a lot of young people, how they feel today, which is terrifying because this is not civil society. We don't go around assassinating people for public policy disagreements. It's really
apparently
terrifying.
That's what they're being taught, that people who disagree with you are evil.
Yes.
Therefore, they deserve this kind of thing. And that is the kind of propaganda that's being taught. I mean, at Columbia, we have students out supporting a designated terrorist organization, Hamas, who they ought to read the State Department report about how Hamas was governing Gaza. It was a dictatorship as bad as North Korea.
Yeah.
And they're celebrating that and saying, oh, that was a good thing.
Well, we'll talk more about this and a little bit more on Taylor Lorenz because that story is kind of wild. We'll continue in just a moment. First, it is 6:15. Time to get over to Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Yeah, I sometimes take advantage of, being in the news business, and I think it's important to sort of explain who Taylor Lorenz is. She's a nut. Let's start there, okay? Taylor Lorenz is a former Washington Post columnist. She I think officially resigned from the Washington Post, but there's some questions about that if she was sort of pushed out. Because her reporting had really come under question. She's sort of known to harass people that are the targets of her investigative reporting. She sort of famously, I would say, stalked and went to the house of libs of TikTok, Chaya Raichik, and threatened to go to her family and expose things and expose addresses. and she sort of, you can tell, loves the power of being a sort of a powerful columnist for a national newspaper and sort of pushes people around. So she is also sort of known for being terrified of COVID. She's still masked. She talks about, she recently went on Twitter and criticized people for breathing without a mask on. She then went to Vox and had a short stay there, but Vox recently let her go, partly because of sort of her harassing nature. So that's Taylor Lorenz. And now it's kind of weird. Taylor Lorenz, it turns out, was following this Maggiani guy. And again, I want to be clear, she sort of defended what he did. She went on Piers Morgan recently, and even before that said, well, you know, it's sort of like, well, he kind of deserved it. This healthcare CEO kind of deserved what he got.
Yeah, which is total nonsense. I mean, can we talk about that just for a quick second? You know, people think UnitedHealthCare, wow, they're one of these horrible healthcare companies. I actually looked them up. You know, their profit margin is under 6%.
Yeah.
This idea that they're one of these companies that makes all their money denying claims. No, they pay out billions of dollars of health claims. The idea that they're somehow trying to take advantage of people, that's one of those Hollywood stories.
It is.
Hollywood always makes corporations the evil villain, and I was in the corporate world. That is just not the case.
Yeah, well, it is a little bit strange. Taylor Lorenz, who again made this comment that, and has made several comments rather, that the healthcare CEO deserved what he got. And again, she uses this sort of, you hear this a lot. Well, he denied, millions of Americans getting the help that they needed, the health care that they needed, coverage they needed. And so he sort of deserved it. I brought this up with you earlier in the morning. I talked about how in Alexandria, Virginia, where I live, when that Bernie bro took aim and actually shot several Republicans on that baseball field, there was this weird sort of feeling in the city where you kind of got the sense that people thought, well, they kind of deserved it. And Taylor Lorenz is the one who's pushing that message. But she has been let go from Vox for this and other of her totally unhinged messaging like this. She has also, some sort of sleuths out there found that she was following this Luigi Mangione on Twitter. Kind of a weird little coincidence.
Yeah, it is a weird coincidence. She's amongst this generation of people who, if it was 1918, they'd be in Moscow helping Lenin and Trotsky and others put in a communist regime that ended up imprisoning and killing tens of millions of people.
Yeah. We've got more on this and other issues right now. It is 6:21 on WMAL. So we're talking about Taylor Lorenz here, and I sort of described what a sort of nut she is. But I think it really helps to hear her, what she has to say. Let's play cut 16. She's talking here with Piers Morgan about the murder of the healthcare CEO and essentially defending the murderer. Let's hear cut 16.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's been gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that he murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I love this.
Because it wouldn't fix the
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
Yeah, and I want to hear your thoughts here, but really quickly, because it's radio, can't see. She is grinning from ear to ear and laughing when he is talking about the death of this healthcare CEO. But you were saying that about her claims that millions of people die because they're denied all these health.
That is she is the old fashioned word ignoramus. That is her. Because what she is asserting is not true.
Yeah, she is really gross. There's no other way to say it. I just really hard to put into words. Keep it here. We're going to talk about Time Magazine's shortlist for Person of the Year. It is 6:29.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Tuesday morning. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. It's 6:37. Coming up at 7:05, Cully Stimson with the Heritage Foundation. He'll give us an update on the Daniel Penny acquittal. Thank God for that. At 7:35, Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. He'll give us an update on this odd story. Luigi Mangione, the alleged killer of the healthcare CEO. He'll cover some other legal topics as well. And at 8:05, Susan Ferriccio, the Washington Times. She will give us the latest on Trump's cabinet picks. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for Larry alongside Hans von Spakovsky. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Julie. And gosh, we're right around the corner from Christmas,
I
Hanukkah,
know,
and the
I
holidays,
know.
Aren't we?
Are you ready?
No.
Your trees haven't been decorated yet, right?
No, I got to do that this weekend.
Yeah. Well, okay, so Times Person of the Year. I would name you Time Person of the Year.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Much deserved. But they apparently have a short list for Person of the Year. And, there's been a lot of, for I think conservatives, a lot of disappointment with the, Times Person of the Year. It's always someone I sort of don't like. But it looks like this year they're considering Joe Rogan, Princess Catherine, Trump, obviously, Kamala, Elon Musk, and who is this woman? I don't know. Maybe do you know?
Well, if you don't recognize her, how can she be a woman of the year?
Yeah.
I cannot believe Kamala Harris is on that list. She hands Democrats one of the worst, biggest defeats the modern Democratic Party has ever suffered, and they're thinking of making her woman of the year. Can they name a single accomplishment of hers as vice president? I can't.
It's not only that. It's also the fact that she was sort of behind a coup, right, to push Biden out, and then sort of elevated herself to this position as the nominee for the Democrat Party, and there was no conversation. No one voted for her.
No. And look, whether you like Donald Trump, whether you don't like Donald Trump, he engineered the biggest comeback story in American political history.
If it is not him, you're right. If it is not him, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, obviously, Kamala Harris makes no sense. Kate Middleton, she survived cancer, right? I can see the sort of feel-good reasoning behind that one, although there's no way she deserves that over Trump. Elon Musk. Now, that, to me, is worthy competition.
Now, it is, particularly because, as you know, Twitter, now X, was engaging in censorship. One of the worst things you can experience in a free society. They were censoring, and he took over now X in order to maintain our most important freedom, which is the First Amendment and the ability to freely speak. That, to me, deserves a great deal of praise.
I sometimes think about what the world would be like if Elon Musk had not taken over X. The censorship. It's funny too. You sometimes see this on X, and you see this also on other platforms, where people will say things on X today, and you think, well, you couldn't say that in 2021.
You could not.
You couldn't. You would be banned. No. People lost accounts with significant numbers because they would say something like doubting the COVID vaccine, the efficacy of the COVID vaccine, or questioning certain policies. You really were punished on these social media platforms, well, particularly X. And so, and I also think that what Elon Musk has done is really push some of these other social media platforms to stop the censorship as well. He's been enormously influential over other social media platforms.
Yeah, and let's not forget that those social media platforms were secretly behind the scenes, talking with, bowing to pressure and coercion from the federal government, including the White House, to censor people's opinions. That is something that at X has been stopped by Elon Musk, and it's something that Donald Trump has promised will not happen during his administration.
And I'm talking about that sort of influence he's had on other social media platforms. Mark Zuckerberg is also on the short list. I certainly do not think that he deserves it, but he also has sort of come out and apologized for his meddling in the 2020 election and sort of vowed to, grow a spine and not sort of, do whatever the federal government and the Democrats tell him to do. So that's also due to Elon Musk, his strength and his courageous defense of the First Amendment. Meanwhile, I don't know if you saw the cold shoulder that was given to Kamala Harris by Jill Biden at the Kennedy Awards. Did you see this video?
I saw that, and boy, people are really talking about the fact that he didn't even shake her hand.
Didn't look at her.
They didn't even look at her.
Let me just set this up for people, and we're up against it, but really quickly. These are the Kennedy Awards. The president and their president, first lady, and VP and spouse all sit there together. And so Kamala and her husband, whose name I can't remember, were sitting there. And then, Jill and Biden come down the ramp. And Jill Biden emerges, and usually you would think she would turn to Kamala. And they are inches from one another, and you would think she would say, hello, or give her a kiss on the cheek, or even a handshake. Nothing. Doesn't look at her. It was the cold. I've never quite seen anything so cold. And then Biden, the same thing. No acknowledgement of Kamala Harris.
It was like there was a Star Wars type force field between these couples.
Well, we'll talk more about this and other topics. It is 6:43.
On the next Vince Coglianese Show, the biggest threat to the left, the truth. It tells you a lot. Join us 3 to 6 right here on WMAL.
So I think there's a certain fear out there that the Biden administration is going to try to do as many wacky things as they can before it's all over. And that was on full display earlier this week when HHS tweeted out their celebration of pansexual and pan-romantic Pride Day. Tell me, Hans, what does that mean?
I actually had to look that up to find out what it means. But that shows why what Elon Musk, Vivek are doing is so important. The government shouldn't be in that business.
Yes.
That's a cultural thing. We're having cultural debates about it. Why is a government agency involving itself in something like that?
It is nuts. Well, think about it. HHS actually employs a trans identifying man. I can't ever forget. It's a man who identifies as a woman.
It's a man who pretends he's a woman.
Yes,
that's the way. That's the way I describe it.
No, I love it.
Days.
I love it. Let's not forget about some of the other wacky Biden administration officials. They have turned most of these federal agencies into tools to push a woke agenda, and this is just another example of it. So, Inauguration Day cannot get here soon enough. Happy pansexual and pan-romantic Pride Day. Again, I have no idea. Elon Musk tweeted in response, "At this point, I'm just confused. I have no idea what they even mean." And in response to that, Caitlyn Jenner wrote, "Ditto."
You know what? You know what would be? You know what I'd really like to see in our society?
Yes,
Julie, that people take whatever it is they do in their bedrooms and keep it there. Don't talk about it publicly. Don't display it publicly. Let's go back to people believing in actual privacy.
Well, you also have to compare what HHS is currently tweeting about these sort of nonsense fringe ideas. They almost never tweet out sensible advice for Americans on diet and health and avoiding certain things. Meanwhile, products like vaping, which is, not to go over into this other subject, but vaping is much safer than combustible cigarettes. They put every barrier in front of that technology being developed. They're perfectly fine with the legalization of drugs and other policies which do nothing to improve Americans' health. So, and again, then we see things like this celebrating some sort of sexual decision that really nobody needs to hear about.
No, that's right. Or talking about that, legalizing drugs. I always wonder about the total hypocrisy of liberals and others who want to completely ban cigarettes, particularly smoking in public, but then say, "Oh, but we should legalize marijuana and smoking marijuana." There, oh gosh, we don't need to worry about secondhand smoke.
You walk around this city and all you smell is pot. It's disgusting. We'll get more on this and other topics at 6:52.